Hey, what's up, people? I straight up passed out. I was gonna stream earlier. I had trouble getting into work, and then I literally just passed out. Um, it was like after I drank coffee and everything, and I'm putting the date or the time as the date, as I sometimes tend to do. So it's a very late start. I am extremely burnt out from this project. But I must finish. Okay, it has to be done. So, what did we do? Yesterday we did, we finished the population of the list, the master save object list, and we stopped at line 12 in things to do to begin on the next task. So let's go ahead and see what that next task is gonna or what I put there. And I think I know what it was. It's gonna be create logic for reconnect apply data. Create function which loads in data from database on reconnect, uses master save object list. Create a function which handles the object name and value to specifically set the proper data structures. And that's where we stopped. Okay, so that is indeed the current I might be able to get rid of this thing. Save logic, save to go to file refactor. Finish visual save data save function in this file to handle all visual updates. I'm sure there's no easy save. Current pop. Okay, so we did all this. Create save logic and pop. And then we did in clear. We finished that, so that's done. This attribute stuff, this is basically what we just did. And then finish loop data save function to handle all game loop logic updates. Function takes checkpoint. Yeah, so we're not actually using a checkpoint like we're not really using checkpoints. We really just have one checkpoint. We don't have multiple checkpoints. So we just changed the way that this works. And yeah. Today's Thursday, correct? Cool. So tomorrow's Friday. Wonderful. All right. So let's see if there's anything else we can knock off this list real quick. Create logic for reconnect. Dirty reset back to 0. Ask ChatGPT about loading in object assigning to a different memory location regarding the object that referred to it. Finish populating the database master save object list. Go through each file and determine which data needs to be saved. So we did that. Yeah, we did all that. So we just have this hanging around to see what we said yes and no to. And I guess we'll save this. But we're going to modify it a little bit. So here's what I'll do. I will just copy it all, right? And then let's go over to notes and I'm just gonna save this in notes. So things to remember, Pygame info, debugging card. So the way that we've been doing this is like it's in reverse order. The newest stuff is at the top, for this file. Why? I don't know. I don't know why we did that. But that's the way that we did it, which was dumb. But that's the way we did it, so. That's a lot of stuff we went through. Alright, so now we're gonna change this to be database master save object list. This is if equals yes here, then we included in list, sometimes with explanation for future reference. Just in case we want to refer back to this. We'll just actually title this. Why did it delete that? I don't know. I hit spacebar. Why would... I don't know why. Oh, it was... I see. Okay. Well, we just call this save... master save list. Master save list inclusion. And... that's all we need. Okay, so let's go close this, and then we're going to go back to devlog. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Custom append list pipeline to 204. Discovered possible bug. We didn't expand upon it. We'll put this in pressing issues. We're not going to put it in current issues. Dirty, reset back to 0. We'll take care of that. Not worried about it right now, so it'll go in pressing, but not in current. Now we have finish creating save logic for each object in database master save object list. Finish creating this logic in logic save state. Well, that's actually the task that we're working on now, so we kind of like duplicated that one. It's okay. Determine which functions in save logic that we're going to use in final save system. Since we determined we are using globals now for save system, determine which function to use, remove. Such functions such as custom append list save function may not be necessary, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that's actually true. Yeah, so ensure we go through projects and disable these where necessary. Since changed, yeah. So that actually does need to be done. Test append pop clear save logic test code. Yeah, we need to do that for sure. Checkpoint globals locals to save all data. Consider using global local method to save all data without specifically locating it. Could you use for loop? Yeah, that we made a decision on that, so that's basically a dead task there. Test append pop clear. Yep, that popped up again. Apply section save logic. Ensure notes in this section are followed concerning proper save logic and client applies apply section. Basically using stable and unstable checkpoints and properly identifying handling them. So, yeah, we need to do that. And it might already be taken care of, but we'll put that off for now. That won't be in the current. It'll be in pressing, though. Alright, what else? Merge diff client main branch with feature branch. Properly merge save feature branch into main branch. Ensure the system is stable tested prior to this. Yeah, we definitely do need to do that, but that's not going to be our current issue. we need to test before we can do that, which we can't really do because our project is in it's in disarray right now. It's not in a stable state, so we actually cannot do that. Clear test result. Yeah, so we need to actually do these tests right there. And then we need to also test the save system. Well, the save system I think is like we can separately test that. So did I paste it in? Yeah, I did. Okay. We have determine which function save like we're going to use the final save system. Should we get the projects? Yep, that'll go there. To pressing. Create logic for reconnect apply data. Ask ChatGPT about loading in object and assigning these different memory locations. Okay, yeah, so that I will do that real quick because, well, I like talking to ChatGPT. It's kind of fun for me. I enjoy the AI interactions here. So let's ask about Python using SQLite 3 to save game state in main while loop. Concerned about how reassigning objects from save file DB upon reconnect will work considering the memory addresses and all that will be different. Yeah, I'm just like, as I'm saying the question, I'm like, this is kind of a dumb question. Yeah, like, but it's good to like clarify it. So you're absolutely right to think carefully about object identity and memory when reloading game state from SQLite 3 database. Here's a breakdown of what happens, how to deal with it properly. When you reload objects from a database, they are deserialized or reconstructed as new Python objects, even if they conceptually represent the same game entities. This means they'll have new memory addresses. Any reference to the old objects in your code won't magically point to the new ones. If you had relationships like player, inventory, 0, owner, is equal to player, those will break unless explicitly restored. Yeah, so that was kind of the concern, I think. Like that's a perfect example of the concern that I had. Okay, and that's smart. This is a smart thing where it says use IDs as primary identity instead of relying on memory addresses. Give every game entity a unique ID. That's really smart. So relationships via these IDs in your database like foreign keys. Yeah, that's smart. I mean, like, I don't necessarily think we're gonna have these issues, but it's made me mindful. Like, so my concern was valid. I kind of knew there might have been something, you know, problematic or possibly problematic. It might work perfectly. It all depends, you know, on like the exact specific logic that gets executed and like what references what or whatever, and you know, we might have to micromanage some of that a little bit. But in the SQL, in the database SQL create table. Yeah, so rehydrate with a factory or registry. When loading from the database, use a loader or factory that reconstructs the objects, keeps a mapping of ID to object, resolves references after all objects are loaded. For row and cursor execute, select ID name from player. For row and cursor execute, select ID name from player. Player map row ID. Player ID is equal to row ID name or row name inventory. Load items and assign to owners. For row and cursor X, you select ID, name, owner ID from item. Item equals item at ID, row of ID, name equals row at name. Item map, row ID is equal to item. Owner equals player map at row. Owner ID. During save, you can persist game state during the main loop using transactions or batching writes on a background thread. You can persist game state during the main loop using transactions or batching writes on a background thread. Keep such a consistent memory, but always rely on ID. Yeah, so like honestly, I don't think we're gonna have anything to worry about. I just wanted to read through that to see if maybe something might have jumped out at me because I was afraid that like, oh, you know, what if I wasn't doing it right? Like, what if I forgot some critical thing that was gonna cause it to just not work after like I already did it, you know? And I got like concerned, but I think we'll be okay. So, all right, I forgot to set my timer. Uh-oh. There he goes. Battery must have lost contact for a second. So we did 17 minutes, so we need to do 51. 51? Yeah, we'll do 51. That'll put us at an hour and 8 minutes. That's usually what I like to do per session. I've only been doing one session per day instead of like 2. I don't know why. It's just the way it's been. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump over to Save Logic and let's check this shit out. See what we got going on here. So we got our master save object list. Okay, so this stuff, I need to really identify which file this stems from. That was something I didn't do initially, and I should have. See how I put like custom append list right here? That is what I should have done, but I did not. So, yeah, I'm an idiot. So let's go ahead and go through each one and take care of that. So we have car group dict handles XY display layer. But what file does this come from? And a way that we can find that is by going to notes here and bringing this. We do Control Alt 2. Is that how you do it? Control Shift 2? Control Alt 2? No. Control Alt 1, Control Alt 2, Control Tab 2, Shift Alt 2, Control Shift 2, Control Alt 1, Control Shift 1. Okay, what was the keybind? VS Code, what is keybind for switching tab to different tab group from 1 to 2? Move the current tab from one tab group to another. Control K. That's not right. Oh, is it left and right? Do I do Control Alt? Oh, there we go. Yeah, it's Control Alt left or right. Okay. So you do Control 1 and then Control Alt right. There we go. Got it. Okay, so now we go to the top. Let's go all the way to the tippity top here. What we got? All right, card. So this goes actually. It's not ordered in the same way. So we're gonna have to search for card group dict here. Card group dict. All right, there it is. So that's actually a game attribute. So that's what I was looking for. So say game.py and C1 apply counter. So we're going to copy, go to 2, Control F, Control V, and Y is. Okay, so this is going to be change attribute list py. And I do want them to be all caps. So let's just is there a way to change? Is there a way to auto or convert from lowercase to caps in VS Code, Python, comments? So it does not convert lowercase to uppercase. There are several ways to achieve this. Use a multi-cursor plus transform manually, but quickly convert select text. Select your comment, press Control Shift P, type and select transform to uppercase, or use a shortcut Control Shift U. Oh, so you can actually highlight it and do Control Shift U. Tasks. What is this? It brought up output. So we need to do Control Shift P, transform to uppercase. Oh, it did it. So okay. That's cool. Control. So now if I do Control Shift U. Okay, Control Shift U does not do that. If I do Control Alt P, Control Shift P rather, and then transform to uppercase. Okay, so I would have to keybind this. I want to keybind it. Let's do Control Caps Lock Q. What about that? What you think about that, dude? Let's do Control Caps Lock Q. Or why is it? Oh, dude. Control plus Caps Lock plus Q. Oh, so you can't we just do Control? How the fuck do you do this? Control Caps Lock. I should just do Control Caps Lock. Is that okay? Is that conflicting? Let's see. If we do let's search for Control Caps Lock. Control plus cap. Okay, so that's the only one assigned to that. Cool. So is that gonna work now? So if we do Control Caps Lock. Oh wow, that's cool. That's awesome, actually. Very cool. You know how much? Should have done that a long time ago. Anyway, life goes on, right? C1 expect counter. That's actually client. So this is going to be clients. C1 to C1 received data storage dict. That is client. That's all client. So we can just copy this straight up. Okay, received cal tuplist. That's client as well. Okay, deck. That's gonna be almost certainly from deck, right? I mean, that makes sense to me. Yeah. Yeah, so that's deck. Deck fine. Discard pile. Deck. Clickable, cardless. Unsure of whether this is an object that needs to be saved. Adding since I didn't think to add it when going through custom timeless file. Technically, it is created in setup, but I just wanted to make sure it was added here in case it does need to be saved. Need to determine if this list needs to be saved. Okay, so we actually didn't do these two. Clickable card list and clicked cards list. So let's see. Do these need to be saved? Let's see. Control Shift F. Okay, so we did add it. Clickable card list. But we didn't add clicked cards list. I wonder why. Yeah, we did. We added them both. So we did apparently determine that they needed to be saved. Because those are normally what? Game attributes? No? Yes? Clickable card list. Yeah, okay, there we go. We did add it, and it's from game. Yes, remember logic for this being CTL instance. Okay. So that's actually already taken care of. Get rid of that. Yeah, we don't need to distinguish between like instance versus class adder. That's extra. We don't really need to do all that. Thank God I did it for most of them, huh? See how quick that was? Boom. Okay, I know what I want to do here. I gotta find the one that sticks out the furthest, which is probably gonna be this one. And then we're gonna bring them all to that level. So we'll do it like this. Actually, I'm gonna take a break real quick. Hold up. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Anyway, let's do this. Where are we at here? Okay, yeah, we're lining these up here. There we go. Nice and tidy. That's how I like it. Look at that. Look at that. Okay. So now we have this nice and tidy. Okay, so what's next? Well, now we need to go ahead and implement logic for each one of these. So let's go ahead and find that function, which is stable safe state function? No. Load state. Okay, so this is going to be... Yeah, this is it. This is the one. So continue working on load state. Should be changed to finish logic for reconnect apply data. Let's say finish function load state from save logic pi. Reconnect loading. Create a function which was. That's what that should have said. Alright, so we're at load state. Loads in all necessary data that was saved to database. Okay. Yeah, it is true. Well, it is true. Oh, so we don't use the same. We use time last saved, not time stamp. So let's change this to time stamp, and this to time stamp. There we go. There we go. Because we do want that to go off of that timestamp last saved. True. Ensure that reconnect logic we are using timestamp last saved in the database. Check which is the most recent. Yes. Verifies we are loading the most updated data. Yeah, that actually, we have that implemented, so that can be moved, erased rather. Alright. Okay, so let's just go through this one and see what it does so far. So we have, it starts with index, set to 0, and apparently we have not reviewed this, and it does need to be reviewed, so let's just do that right now. So we have index equals 0 for path in save data stable path, save data stable backup path. Path in save data stable path, save data stable backup path. If index is equal to 0, and I can just use a tuple. This doesn't have to be a list, I don't believe. Tuples are faster. If index is equal to 0, stablecon equals SQLite.connect path. Stable cursor equals stablecon.cursor. Now we check the timestamp last save to see which we want to load from. And then we do stable cursor select value from save data, where object name is equal to placeholder timestamp last saved. Select value from save data. Where object name is equal to placeholder timestamp last save. Stable timestamp last save equals pickle loads, so it deserializes it and it fetches it. It fetches it and then deserializes it, so that should be proper. And then we do index plus 1, and then it says else if index is equal to 1, so in that case it would be 1. And it says backup con equals SQLite 3. And we can just say index equals 1, honestly, here. It doesn't have to be plus equals. And then, yeah, backup con equals SQLite 3 connect path. Backup cursor equals backup con cursor. Check something last sheet, blah, 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 blah. And then we say backup cursor, select value from the save data where object name is equal to blank timestamp last save. Backup timestamp last saved is pickle loads. Backup cursor fetch 1 at index 0. Index equals 1. Yeah, so that should all be right. And then it says if max timestamp last save, backup timestamp last save is equal to stable timestamp last save, cursor equals stable cursor, backup con close, backup con none, backup cursor equals none. Else elif max stable is equal to backup timestamp last save, cursor equals backup cursor, stablecon close, stablecon none, stable cursor none. For object name blob in cursor execute, select object name. Why did it change? Oh, it didn't. Okay. Select object name value from save data. Object value equals pickle loads blob, so then it deserializes that blob. Below line, would we need to load in the data points in a particular order? Yeah, I think we actually would. We did talk about that. Like, I think certain things would need to be done in a particular order. Globals at object name equals object value. Globals object name is equal to object value. Close that object name. Okay, so currently we just have it like this. But this is not gonna work. Yeah, we can't actually do it like that. Because they're not like globals. Technically they're not globals. So it would have been clever to be able to do it like this, but we're just not going to be able to do that, I don't think. We can't use like so blah blah blah. Let's see. Blah blah blah. Funny. Let's go over here and see what we got. So when loading in this data using object name as the namespace for each object, we wouldn't be able to assign through we wouldn't be able to assign object attributes, would we? Like p1 p1.name. You're spot on in identifying a subtle issue here. This code assigns top-level objects directly to the global namespace. So, for example, if the save file had an object named p1, it becomes available as p1. But your rights question: can we assign objects like p1 name during loading if those objects reference each other? Pickle loads each. It becomes available as p1. Pickle loads each object individually, meaning p1 references p2 and they're loaded separately. The reference might be broken. Okay, no. I'm not worried about my previous question concern. I'm just asking if using p1, if using globals to assign p1's attributes would be valid in the format of globals at object name if object name was equal to p1.name, etc. Can you use... No, you cannot assign object attributes that way with globals. Globals is a dictionary that maps variable names in the global scope. So globals at p1 is equal to some object is equivalent to p1 equals some object. But this p1.name equals Alice does not do Python p1 name Alice. It just creates a new global variable literally called p1 name. Okay. Attribute error unless p1 name was set elsewhere. Print globals p1 name. Just create a new variable p1 name in the global scope. Not modify the name attribute of it. Like, can you even do that? You need to actually resolve p1 from globals, then set its attribute. So you just say object adder equals object name dot split dot 1. Get the object reference from globals. Target object equals globals at object. And then you would do set adder. Target object adder object value. So that's interesting. That's like that is a way, right? That is a way to do this. There is a way to do this. Okay. So that is one way. But I'm not sure if that's the way that like I want to do this. Let's see. We have okay, and I'm realizing that certain of these need to be in terms of P1 and P2, right? So like okay. So this is a little tiny bit complicated because we don't really save P1 game attributes from the perspective of P2. Like we don't care about them. We don't even transfer them. Like we don't if you're if you're a P1 game, then you don't care what P2 games data is. If you're P2 game, you don't care what P1 games data is. And I'm quite certain that that means, like, since this is all client side, in this case, we would need to know, like, which game object we were associated with. Does this make sense? I know this is a little bit complicated. Like, the question is, how do we do this? At what point? When do we say, okay, we're P1 game, so we're going to handle the P1 games card group dictionary? So we could do it on the saving end when we save the data, or we could do it on the loading end when we load the data. At first thought, it seems smarter and more logical to do it on the saving end. So that this would be done in the save function. The save function would determine which one was the current game. It'd be P1 or P2, or a P1 game or P2 game. And basically, whenever we ran the save function, it would... We could really add a prefix. Yeah, because we don't need to save both of them. Because client side, at least for game, and for like client, there's two client objects. There's two game objects, and there's two player objects. And those, you know, it depends on who's who. Now, for the expect counters, we do receive data from the other client, right? Well, we receive data that pertains to the other client. I think that's how that works. Like if we're P1 or client 1 and we're running client side, then we still need to know what client 2's player data is, like the hand and stuff, to display cards properly. And whenever client 2 makes a change to its hand on the server side, the server will transfer that from the like P2's perspective. And whenever the client receives that data, I want to say it would use the C2 expect counter. I can't remember, honestly. So there's some questions I need to answer here pertaining to this, like, distinction between 1 and 2. I don't mind just saving both of those. That's just an integer. That's nothing. I'm not really worried about that. That's fine. Like, if I only really need to save 1 instead of 2, I don't care about that. But the well, the received cal-tuple list, this only needs to be saved in terms of the current client. Does that make sense? Like, well, it only would be. There would have to, at some point though, we would have to interpret this to refer to the current client's received cal-tuple list. And that would have to happen at the time of saving, right? Yeah, so we would need to add in save logic. I think I know the answer to these questions. You see how I have this as P1 and then P2, P1 and P2 and all this stuff? I think what we'll do is at the time that we save, we're gonna have to distinguish between which is which. Whether we're saving P1 games card group dict or P2 games card group dict. And the question is, how do we most, like, what's the best way to do this? And I don't think that we need to do it like this, where we do P1 hand, P2 hand, P1 name, P2 name. What we could do so this has to do with when, like, each client, when they connect, they're either client 1 or client 2. And I'm trying to think, if we reconnect, how do we know who, like, which client was which? Well, we get that from the database, like, because we save that at the beginning of the game, right? So this is actually something that gets saved other than in the context of this master save object list. So let me just put a note right here. We'll put, because I'm trying to figure out, there's a lot of little things going on in my head about, like, how do we best do this? I don't want like it to conflict with another thing that saves or accesses the ID, blah blah blah. I have to make sure that if you're client 1, that also means that you are player 1 and your P1 game. I'm like 99% sure that is the case, to where basically all we need is the ID, like the client ID. And I know that we already have, like, that being saved, right? Like, when we first run the game, let's go open a client real quick. So at the beginning of a game being run, let's see, if name is equal to main, try while, blah 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 blah, while true. Right, so here we go. If you start a new game, so if you start a new game right here, you end up getting your client ID and your game ID from the server side. And if you'll either be 1 or 2. You're going to be client 1 or client 2, and then the game ID is going to be, like, relative to the game, you know, that client 1 and client 2 are on game number 7. So the game ID for both of those clients is going to be 7. But the client ID is going to be 1 or 2, depending on, you know, who connected first. The first one to connect gets client ID 1. The second to connect gets client ID 2. And then from that point on, if client ID is equal to 1, current game equals P1 game, current player equals P1. See? So that ends up determining yeah. So okay, so I was right about that, but I still need to figure out, like, what is the exact thing I'm trying to, the specific task that I need to do. Okay, so the first one would be for game objects and perhaps others, ensure we are only saving / loading the current game's objects, attributes rather, since we don't actually need / use the other game's data. I'm pretty, like, certain that's the case, that we don't use the game attribute data at all, and I just need to verify that we indeed do not use this data. 99% sure we don't on client side. I just need to, like, triple check that though. So for game objects, perhaps others sure we're only saving loading the current game's attributes since we don't actually need use the other game's data. We need to verify that we indeed do not use this data. 99% sure we don't on the client side. Okay, true. What else? What else? Well, we also need to add logic that I think I'll do it like this. I think we're gonna use a system that distinguishes between which file we're dealing with, and like basically that will let us know if we need to only load in the current games, or in the case of like player, we need to load in both. Like for the hand, we need to load in P1 hand and P2 hand. But if we're P1, we don't need to load in P2 games data. But if we're P1, we still need to load in P2's data. Does this make sense? So like we have to distinguish between that, and I could just make it to where we have the prefix before attached to well, we would have to, right? Because when we save it, we would have to distinguish, because we're saving two hands, so we would have to like have them identified separately. They couldn't just both be called hand. But in the case of the game objects, they're simply not going to have a dot inside of them because they're not associated with one object or the other. They're always going to be associated with the current game object. Yeah, so that's the solution. So sure we were saving, and I'm going to say this would be accomplished by this should be framed better. Let me copy this, get rid of that, go to tab 2, and this needs to go in things to do. So this is going to be the step, the next task, or yeah, like this is going to be what we're working on, and we're going to identify this as a specific problem. And we're going to say that this is going to be, we need like a little title for this issue. We'll call it save object list we'll just say save list object reference logic. That sort of summarizes it. So it's the save lists object reference logic. For game objects, ensure we are only saving loading the current game's attributes. Verify that we do. This would be accomplished by checking during loading whether the object name has a dot inside of it. If it does, it refers to either it refers to an object or a data point that is referred to by two different associated objects. And then we'll just say aka p1.hand and p2.hand. And then therefore, if there isn't a dot in the object name, we would be referring to an object or a data point that is only relevant in terms of which associated object is current. And we'll say AKA if client ID is equal to 1, then we only need client 1's data. Client 1's data or if or P1 games data, not P2 games as well. That makes sense? I think that makes sense. So therefore, if there isn't a dot, this would for game objects ensure we are saving only occurring in bedrooms or like need game data. And I'm just going to change this to say ensure we are saving, loading in terms of both or associated objects data. And we'll just put i.e. P1 game doesn't need P2 game data. So we'll say i.e. both refers to needing both P1 and P2 dot P2's dot hand, while associated refers to the fact that P1 game, or we'll just say client 1 doesn't need P2 game data. So let's put this on two different things, like this, and then we'll put this here. Say both refers to needing both P1 and P2's hand. We'll make this a little bit more explicit. And P2 dot hand. And then associated refers to the fact that client 1 doesn't need a P2 game data. AKA if we are client 1 only load data associated with client 1 and no data associated with client 2. Verify that we indeed do so. Sure, we must verify that we do not use this data. Yeah, so that needs to be put there. AKA if we are client 1, only load data associated with client 1 data. And no data associated with client 2. Same with not needing P2 game data if current game was P1 game. And verify that. There we go. This will be accomplished by checking during loading whether the object name has a dot inside of it. If it does, it refers to a data point that was referred to by two different associated objects, aka P1 hand, P2 hand. Therefore, if there isn't a dot, we would be referring to a data point that's only relevant in terms of which associated object is current. If client ID is equal to 1, then we only need client 1 data or P1 gives data, not P2 game data as well. Okay, yeah, that's pretty good. It was kind of hard to figure out how to word that properly, but that's really what needs to be done next. This becomes, and I'll just put this refers to the object names inside of save logic dot master save object list, something like that. So say if there is a dot in object name, i.e. P1 and P2 hands, we would be referring to a data point that is object name that equals both objects needed and then if there isn't, we'll be referring to data that is only relevant to the current and KVI. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, that's fine. And we're gonna put that we stopped right here. Copy this, so this is line 11. So let's go over here and let's just say that we stopped at line number 11 in things to do dot text. Oops. And we finalize the form of the save logic dot master save object list, identifying which file object each data point is associated with. Also, well, that actually should go here. The greater thing that we worked on was worked with object list relative to how load logic slash load slash save slash load logic will interact with the specifics of each data point entry. Made first pass on final form of save and load logic for proper I don't really know how to word this. Made first pass on final form and saved load logic related to this list. I think that's pretty descriptive. It's about as specific as I can be. We stopped there. Okay, and then we're doing 446 to 447, and so we stopped at 447. So we did an hour and 23 minutes. We'll just say 1.5, close enough, right? And this would be continued save logic dot py save load logic final continued finalizing save logic save load logic. Yeah, that's as good as it gets right there. That's fine. Alright, so now let's go to terminal. We are at the root of the project directory. We're going to get branch, make sure we're on the right branch. We are. We're going to get add dot to stage everything, get commit dash m. We're going to paste in our commit there. So we did 430 deletions and 392 insertions. Okay, then we're going to get push to push up to the cloud. There we go. Now we can exit out of this, and we're going to go over to our programming projects. We're going to change this to reflect today's date. We're going to enter into here, copy that one, delete the old one, and paste in the new one. We're going to enter in text devlog, and that is indeed the up-to-date form. So yeah, there we go. Made good progress. We're getting there, almost done with like the entire thing. We just have to work out the kinks right there, and that we were like figuring out about how to save in terms of P1 and P2 or not. In the case that we're not doing that, we just want to go with whatever the current one is, current game, which would be P1 game or P2 game. Yeah, so working out those kinks, and then after that we're just gonna have to test the system, and I would say maybe I don't know, a couple more days. I have to like figure out exactly a couple more sessions, so we'll say like probably 3 more sessions, 3 more 1-hour sessions, maybe hour 15 session, and I'll have figured out and finalized, you know, the like not how it's gonna work, but actually like finish it. And yeah, so I'd say about 3 more sessions, maybe 4. So about 4 more hours of work. We should be able to, maybe 5.5 hours, because you count the extra 15-30 minutes that I do over the hour. Yeah, I'd say about 5 hours of work, and that will be completely finished. And then we will have to just test it. And like, you know, obviously there's going to be a few bugs. I think there's probably going to be some bugs associated with it, but we have a lot to test because we changed so much code. So after these like next 4 sessions, once we're done, we're probably going to spend, I would say, probably the next 5 sessions after that doing just testing all that and debugging it. So I'll say in about 10 more sessions, aka 15 hours of work, we'll be actually like finished with the save system pretty much completely, give or take. You know, maybe might need to add a little here, something, modify this, modify that. So, and then we're basically done. All we got to do is finish the minor tasks, do some more gameplay tests, and, you know, work out the little bugs, little kinks that I'm sure are going to exist. Create that menu screen, a couple other small changes, you know, little quality of life improvements I wanted to make in the task list. Finish knocking out all the rest of those tasks, and then get that things to do basically empty. Delete the ones that we're just not worried about, and then we can finally fucking move on to deploying this project and like it being done. It's gonna feel nice. So